Dana White just went live on Instagram and announced a bunch of fights, a bunch of title fights. He announced the main event for UFC 317. You know, it's 6 weeks away, but I guess these guys have already been in training camp. He announced the 319 headliner, and he announced a bunch of other really good fights. I want to talk about early predictions for these fights, and I also want to talk about just my general opinion on these fights. So Tony Has Died, will be talking about all the fights that just got announced. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, comment what you guys want to see next, and let's get straight into it. Starting with this first fight that got announced, which is the headliner for the undisputed lightweight title. We got Ilia
Ilia Top
versus Charles Bronx. So we got Charles versus Ilia. And my first thing I have to say is that Islam Makhachev is ducking Ilia Taporia. I am sorry. I am a big Islam Makhachev fan. He's an entertaining fighter. He's put on entertaining fights forever, all right? He's on a crazy win streak. Why do you have to move up a weight class when you still have to fight Ilia and you still have to fight Arman? Those are the two hardest fights for you, stylistically. And you're moving up a weight class after beating Moicano. You know, Moicano just followed me, so don't take this personally, Moicano. Moving up a weight class after beating Renato Moicano on Wednesday's notice is ducking Ilia Taporia. I'm sorry, there's no way about it. Islam Makhachev is ducking Ilia. So you're just telling me because JDM beat Beneil, Islam just is like, okay, I'm vacating the belt, I'm moving up. Why can't you fight Ilia and then move up? And then it will be deserved. You could say, okay, he has the most title defenses at lightweight. He still only has 4 title defenses. Like, come on, guys. What are we? And 2 of them are on short notice, and one of them is against Dustin on 6 weeks notice. Why do you get to move up and fight for double champ when 2 of your defenses are on short notice? I like Islam Makhachev, but he is clearly ducking Ilia Taporia. There's no doubt in my mind about it. I just don't understand this move from Islam. The fight with Ilia is bigger. It would sell more too. And it's better for his legacy if he beats Ilia than beating JDM. So I just don't get this move from from Islam. So, but now let's talk about the actual fight. There is no meme. Charles Oliveira has died. I'm sorry. I'm a huge Oliveira fan. Everyone knows I'm an Oliveira fan. There's no way out of this one, man. Charles is fucked. Charles gets dropped against Michael Chandler. Charles got dropped against everybody he's ever fought ever. I just don't see a way he doesn't get knocked out in this fight, man. Yeah, he's got a puncher's chance, but Ilia is just better than him everywhere. Wrestling, striking, defense. I just don't, even if this becomes a dirty fight, which is what Charles is best and thrives in, I just don't know what he has for Ilia. Like, what advantage does Oliveira have over Ilia besides submission ability? Fucking experience, okay. Ilia's in his prime, just knocked out Max Holloway, knocked out Volkanovski, beat the fuck out of Josh Emmett. I just don't see what Charles could possibly have for Ilia in this fight. It's going to be very hype. Like, I don't want to call this a layup, but that's really what it is for Ilia. I honestly think that stylistically, this is probably the worst matchup for Oliveira. So, respect to Oliveira for taking this fight because he's probably going to get sent to the shadow realm. Let's talk about the next fight. Yes, I've been waiting for this one, man. Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. I'm glad they made this fight. I've watched the entire rise of Chimaev. I watched the entire rise of Dricus. So I've watched both of these guys' entire careers. Dricus has a chance. I feel like a lot of people are counting Dricus out in this fight, but I am going to have to go with Khamzat Chimaev. There is still the possibility that Chimaev chokes Dricus out, and then once they're reading off the scorecards or, announcing Chimaev as the victor, Herb Dean, he has like a zipper on his head. He unzips the zipper and his Dricus inside of Herb Dean, and then he just knocks Chimaev out. You know what I mean? He like pulls out a giant hammer, hits him with the hammer, throws a couple rakes in the octagon. Chimaev starts stepping on all the rakes. That's how Dricus can win this fight. Realistically, I just think that if this gets past the first round, I think Dricus wins easily. I just don't know if Dricus is technical enough to stop the early onslaught from Chimaev. So he can actually match Chimaev in physicality, unlike Robert Whittaker and a smaller Usman. Dricus will be the bigger man in this fight, which is kind of interesting to think about, but I just think like Chimaev is going to put the pressure on him early first round, take him down, and probably choke Dricus out in the first round if I had to guess. I mean, Chimaev is just one of the best grapplers we've ever seen. Dricus, I just don't know if he's technical enough to survive round 1 against Chimaev, who is a very menacing threat first round. Personally, I'm going to go with Chimaev most likely, but I could definitely see Dricus getting this one done. Definitely if he's allowed to bring in if Dricus is allowed to bring some paint in and like paint the side of the octagon to look like a tunnel, and then Chimaev runs into it, I feel like that's definitely a possible way for Dricus to win this. But I think that Chimaev's most likely going to choke Dricus out round 1. But if it does get past round 1, I'm going to have to go with Dricus. I think that if he survives round 1, then he will beat the absolute fuck out of Chimaev, especially since it's 5 rounds. But I just don't think he's technical enough to survive early. So let's talk about the next fight. Tell him, bring me my money, yeah!
Moicano wants money!
We got Money Moicano versus Beneil Dariush. Early thoughts on this fight. I think a lot of people are counting Moicano out just because of how easily he got starched by Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev versus Renato Moicano. That's a real thing. Now listen, I think that Moicano is still a really, really good fighter. He beat the fuck out of Benoit Saint-Denis. He beat Jalen Turner. You know, these are 2 very good wins, you know. Beat Drew Dober. I just think Dariush is getting up there in age. He's coming off 2 brutal knockout losses. Now you can say that he's taken time off to heal from those knockouts, and he already went through a training camp for Moicano for the fight that Moicano stepped up on short notice. I still think that the age is not helping Dariush. I think that Moicano has a lot of momentum. Even if he lost to Islam, he still keeps that momentum he had before, because it was the pound for pound number 1 versus Dariush got starched by Arman and he got starched by Charles Oliveira. So I do think that Renato Moicano will win this fight by money spread. So let's move on to the next one. The next fight that got announced was Alejandre Pantoia versus this little angry midget, Bedtime MMA likes to call him, Israel Adesanya's sidekick, Carr France. I do think Pantoja should win this. I just think he's better everywhere than Kai Asakura. Now, I will say Kai Asakura does have knockout power at flyweight, which is pretty impressive. He doesn't have a hairline, but neither does Pantoja. So it kind of cancels out with that regards. But yeah, man, I think that Pantoja has proven why he is he's the man. I just don't think that beating Steve Erceg and beating Cody Garbrandt is really impressive, you know. I just don't think I've seen enough out of Carr France to pick him in this fight. He has knockout power. He could possibly drop Pantoja, but the only other person to drop Pantoja was Figueiredo, and Figueiredo is one of the greatest flyweights of all time. So I don't think that Carr France has that dog in him. But if Carr, I think Kopp will probably be the one who fights the winner of this, and I think Kopp will probably beat either of them. So I low-key want Carr will win, because I think him versus Kopp would be a crazy title fight and build up, since they already got the beef going, you know what I mean? So you could say, look what Carr did to Steve Erceg, and look what Pantoja, he basically lost to Steve Erceg. Styles make fights, man. Pantoja has proven that he's the man at 125. I just think that he's been in the UFC so long, he's only lost 3 times. It was super early into his career, and ever since then he's just been put, like, he's cleared out the division. He's already beaten Carr France as well on The Ultimate Fighter. I'm gonna have to go with Pantoja on this one. Let's talk about the next fight. Chase Hooper versus Paulo Costa. Shout out Chase Hooper, you know, young Charles Oliveira, finally moving up 2 weight classes to take on the eraser Paulo Costa. Just kidding, it's Roman Kopylov. Roman Kopylov is coming off of a fucking brutal knockout over Chris Curtis in Fight of the Year. Well, it wasn't brutal, it was kind of early, but it was Fight of the Year. It was a very, very competitive fight with Chris Curtis. They were swinging, going crazy with each other. Costa's been on the decline for a while. Lost to Adesanya, lost to Strickland, lost to Whitaker. I think Yoel low-key beat him as well. Paulo Costa's on the decline. Yeah, man, I think Kopylov should have this. I just like the momentum that Kopylov is carrying with him into this fight with Paulo Costa. He wobbled Robert Whitaker. You could say that the Strickland fight was a split decision. It shouldn't have been a split decision. Strickland should have won 5-0. I think one of the judges scored it 5-0. One of the worst scorecards I've ever seen. I just kind of like the momentum that Kopylov is carrying with him into this fight versus Paulo Costa. Costa's just basically lost to everybody. I think Kopylov's not really beaten anybody impressive except for Chris Curtis, which at the same time, I don't really think Chris Curtis is that impressive of a win. But I will be picking Kopylov in this fight just because he's the younger fighter and he's carrying a lot of momentum with him. So I think I like Kopylov in this fight. Next fight that got announced. What the fuck? Marc-Andre Beru literally just fought last week on the Canada card, and he's already signing a fight with Shara Bullet. What is this? Marc-Andre Beru had to take a little time out from his downfall, alright? Yeah, Marc-Andre Beru got starched by Dustin Stoltzfus. He got starched by Joe Pyfer. He lost to Chris Curtis. This is the downfall of Diddy. You know what I mean? Marc-Andre Beru fucking sucks. Yes, he beat Bruno Silva, but Bruno Silva, he's 1-7 in his last 8, and that's his only win since 2022. Marc-Andre Beru is not good. Shara Bullet at least has some skill, even though he lost to MVP and he's Dagestani or whatever. Shara Bullet is still a good fighter and a fringe top 15 fighter. I really don't understand this matchmaking. I think they're just trying to get another highlight reel knockout for Shara Bullet, which is fine with me. Feed this guy cans, get him crazy highlights. I feel like that's kind of the move with him. I don't really think he'll ever be shit after that MVP fight. So since this fight with Ilia and Charles got made, we can only assume that the fight that they're making is JDM versus Islam. Now, who do I favor in JDM versus Islam? Honestly, I favor Islam Makhachev. If you watch the JDM fight with Belal, he starts to keep his hands a lot lower to defend the takedowns from Belal. That allows Belal to hit him a little bit harder. Unlike Belal, however, Islam actually does have power in his hands, and he has a much better grappling game than Belal, and he has the ability to finish the fight on the ground as well. And we've seen JDM get taken down by Burns. I know JDM has really good takedown defense, but I don't know if it will hold against Makhachev. I think that all the success that Islam had in the Dustin Poirier fight, he'll be able to use that same success against JDM. But at the same time, you could say JDM is bigger and he can do the same thing that Poirier did, have success in that fight since it was pretty competitive. So at this moment, I'm leaning more towards Islam, but at the same time, he has been beating former featherweights. He is kind of big for 155. He'll be like a normal size person at 170. We'll see what Islam can do without having that weight advantage. It will be interesting to find out. And I also saw Dana say that John Jones versus Tom Aspinall's in the works. I'm not fucking commenting on John Jones versus Tom Aspinall until that shit gets made. Until I see those motherfuckers in the cage, I'm not commenting on that shit. Those are all the fights that got announced. If you like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel. I do fight talks like this all the time. If you're an MMA fan, you should definitely subscribe to me. Have a good one. Peace.